Our Moroccans. Told you about Alfred and vaporizing chambers. Told you about Alfred and vaporizing chambers, FEMA coffin and cans, biometric palm stamps, paying for things, scan body parts like cyborgs. God is an action word, don't call for my Lord, or Christ or Savior, to help or guide you. Since they never answer when you call, no need to try to. Got them to correct status or China might buy you. Find your organless body floating in the bayou. I do my best to uplift, that's more than most. That got one charge expunged and they wanna boast. Why? When that court is administrative, meaning you won your case on an admin slave ship. Status of the court is not even a court. Plus I'm sure your expunged charge got tossed. So don't talk unless you can show a transcript, cause I'm not buying the Ku Klux Klan Freeman tricks.
Oh, it's right. Coming from the room, it's got the place in ruins. The eyes resurrected. Everything dead now has been manifested. Ooh, it's right. Back from the tomb, for ya, all get consumed. Young-minded and reckless, the eye can't stand when we divided defenseless.
I stay packing these metaphysical stackables, not Lego lines I wrote back in the Capitol. In a committing past life, carving stones uncrackable. Most of these rappers are drones, easily hackable. 360 deals keep them roped up and smackable. Living lifestyles that don't match their capital. Pocket chains dripping, iced out and snatchable. While the agents stay coked up uncrackable. This movement ain't trackable, fake, fraud, and magical. It's mathematical, practical, true, and factual. Active Moors keeping it moving on behalf of you. And these babies being birthed out of these ladies and civics. They're never given naming the daughters Mercedes and butlers they'll never have. But Bentley's all in the daydream. It's crazy living this timeline in HD. Like watching your family get murdered in HD. Either we're in denial or we all got ADHD. Afro-dominant hyper-deficit on the daily.
The eyes resurrected. Everything dead now has been manifested. Ooh, it's right. Back from the tomb, for ya, all get consumed. Young-minded and reckless, the eye can't stand when we divided defenseless.
Sound the alarm? Ring the bell. This life is an illusion. Don't get attached to the shell. It's an invasion and intrusion of your molecules and cells. Mind the words that you use and have you trapped. It's a spell. Part of the reason why we hooligans and humanity is felt rejuvenated, renewed again. The bays and the L from the mountaintop. We shout you, Ali is what we yell. Whether you're not, you're gonna have to be prepared to rebel. Bodies lying on the ground. You ready for the smell?
Warning. Ready or not. I keep Akashic records. Why robotics wanna stomp in records. Concealed spirit in all our vessels. They revealing what the Mars all kept us from believing will be formula to ancestors. Treasures begin to open up my mind's book. Tracing back reflection to a time look. Looking in the mirror, facing my crook. Higher self fighting to survive through a fraud. So facades claiming to be gods. Printing daughters to alter their bars. Hope to Hollywood images at the cost of our knowledge and our mystics. Is this attempt to knock clock our existence? Is this weapons of mass destruction? No future for our children. Is this mental warfare through cosmetic nutrition? Is this time to wake up, recognize misfits, erase their existence? There's none of your nuclear threats that could kill this, could kill this, could kill this.
The place in ruins, the eyes resurrected. Everything dead now has been manifested. Ooh, it's right. Back from the tomb, for ya, all get consumed. Young-minded and reckless, the eye can't stand when we divided defenseless.
I hear him prophet quoting. I'm running with my chakras open. Actually acting, homie, not just hoping. This life is a bitch, so I am not eloping. Fitness illusion. Traveling this plane surely won't be my conclusion. They'll say I have a contusion. Thought process delusional. I ain't playing the game, so I ain't losing though. Are they ready? I doubt it. Should I worry about it? Nah, I'll go to war for more. Guess I'm devoted. Here I come. Ready or not. Ready or not.
Living ready and not on purpose and with a plot. Don't get caught with a dot in your chest without an adequate level blessed or vest based on what we trust the most. It's of utmost importance that we trust the flow. It's how we grow from one point to the next. Simplify the complex. This battle time, there's less time to define. Just act with less breath.
Oh, it's right. Coming from the womb, yeah, the place in ruins, the eyes resurrected, everything dead now has been manifested. Ooh, it's right, back from the tomb, for ya all get consumed. Young-minded and reckless, the eye can't stand when we divided, defenseless.
Where you been, ho? You mind your motherfucking business. When my life fell apart, you didn't have any interest. When I had no job of my own, they didn't want me sell white. What happened? We used to stick up stores, a squad was tight. Rob taxi drivers, sell ounces of blunt guts. A handful of crushed pine needles for dumb cup. When I was down and out, you tried to drag me further. If I died following you, who'd be responsible for my murder? Wise men break when the funds get low. Trying to feed my family, all I'm seeing round town is blow. You heard about so-and-so? Oh, that too. I heard he got dapped. Wasn't he a part of your crew? Many people found themselves a home under Henry. But who's your brother's keeper when you need their help badly? The whole time I'm gone, only few checked in. How's your children? We pray to God for their blessings. So when you hear this track, don't ask us alcohol. Simple message you can pass to the rest. What she said, y'all. And if I come back to stay, feel uncomfortable. You can say whatever you want. I think you're full of bull. No, I don't want your weed. I won't even take a pull. I've seen my life from so many angles, even through the wool. Pulled over my eyes, but I can see clearly the pain is gone. Thank heavens for my angels and all my children born. Up it like a pawn, lights, camera, action. I don't need wagon jumpers trying to join my faction. I'm not trying to break shit down. I'm not here for fractions. Read more books if you don't get it, or just ask them.
Oh, it's right. Coming from the womb, yeah, the place in ruins, the eyes resurrected, everything dead now has been manifested. It's right, back from the tomb, for ya all get consumed. Young-minded and reckless, the eye can't stand when we divided, defenseless.
Even though I'm king and a god, and these things that are hard, I can bleed and get scarred, and these keys that go by it. So I move like a sergeant, not like a pawn in this garden. Carving the path, not the first, not the last, till the end. It's a task for a master. Shattered the box, no keys, no locks, no sheep, no flocks, no pastors. Starving for cabbage, hardening savage, causing the lavish, a pause in this status. Laws of the land is towards the advantage of bandits and bastards. We rise from the ashes.
Let them know. Islam. Let them know. Let them know. Moorish MC order. I'm a round table sheik. 7 days in a circle and 52 weeks. Dirty Moors copycat and bite the prophet's speech. I'm L without taking a Hajj like Malik. In a group of solo like Raphael Sadiq. Walking over rappers like stepping over a creek. Exposing you dappers, dressing like Greeks. Showing off cheeks, thong wearing whale freaks. Suck like a leech. I'm the nerd you kick sand on at the beach. Verbally your face I stand on. Back to teach, learn a lesson as the piano soothes your mood. Lyrical weed, beat brain food, you turn God. Applying what I speak, the truth, they burn and lie through their teeth. Denationalized, jack for all your supplies and knowledge from the high priest on the mental highs. Bringing you light, giving you sight, close your eyes to pray. Yet shackled at night, now they're giving you tripe. Tales of ox, feed of pigs and soup. You've been bamboozled, tricked, had and duped. Won't fight your own fight, but you join their troops. Killing others around the world just to stay out the news. Won't fight your own fight, but you join their troops. Killing others around the world just to stay out the news. Let them know. Use the mic to let them know. Let them know. What up, brother Hanif? Use the mic to let them know. This is like Jurassic. They got your birthright. Knowledge is light. They calling you black and you're calling them white. Your name's make a L and they calling you Mike. Earth shadow is the darkness, they calling it night. The man Gomorrites are called gays and dykes. False education appears real, they calling it fright. Cheek on this beat, you're calling it tight. Effects from the roach blunt, calling it heights. With a razor blade on my line, I'm cutting your kites. Rapping blood clot dummies, worry about stuffing the nights. Feminized in tight shirt, showing muscles and ice. Deals, God, I'm acting like the three blind mice. Rhyming for nursery, laying clay for Andrew Dice. I'm pro, you're Joe, the beat is spike. Can't take my flow, you hope I ease it right. I keep it coming like food and aki, peas and rice. No coleslaw, tonic roots please, no Sprite. 5 cents for a bag, yo, I don't need it, alright. 65, 35, fam, no need to fight. Studio time paid with knowledge, time to leave the mic. Let them know. Use the mic to let them know. Let them know. Use the mic to let them know the truth about nationality and birthright. Let them know.
Agenda to the T, that massive. Ready for the Gideon Babylon with my shit. We give them what they want, so them want come stash it. We're ready for tech back with things and lash it. Unified is the camp nationality, your stamp. When we dealing with the land, we talk attaching this man. So who the white man? Who the black man? When the law was written by the brown hand. Inspiration from a universal realm to distort the realness and take the film. Keeping world under lock and key. Yo, cameras everywhere watching me. Check it. Claim of right to be who I am. Public notice from seas to the land. Who's ready to stand? I am in propia persona. To hell with the fiat and the fake money launderers. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It's time for the people to wake to injustices. Under contract, mind for combat. Natural law, enemies got to fall back. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It's time for the people to wake to injustices. Under contract, mind for combat. Natural law, enemies got to fall
Let
back.
them know.
Well, these were African Arab, Asian values. The only section of Europe that had a high value system during the Dark Ages were those on the Iberian Peninsula in the Spanish, Portuguese area, southern France. And that high state of culture existed there because Africans, known as Moors, had come there and brought it there. So,
Woogie, play that shit.
Yellow beats, holla at
NBPP, ain't BPP. I'm telling y'all, no win with the lawyer, so don't ask me. I know y'all are Moors, just ask General Khalid.
I'm a Moor. You got sense enough to know I'm a Moor. And ain't gonna never argue with you that I'm not a Moor.
The general said he's a Moor. NBPP won't take heed. Your greed for his name fame got you skunk drunk. You never pull the trigger, just pose with the shotguns pump. Waiting and hating, showing no love, but you're showing vacant licenses for ID at the police station. On top of that, no rights reserved on the contract. Dirty Moors finesse masters use old leaders to con cats. Show their picture but won't use their best quotes. Only use the ones to bring in fiat notes from scapegoats. Kwame Toure's wife even wore a fez at their wedding. A snicker at Snick and all black organizations begging. Walking with limbs peg-legging. These conscious pirates, fake freedom warners getting no ratings when I'm irate. Conscious. Sarnetta sat down with Taj Bey one-on-one. Suitin Yeti is my target, Alim Bey is my gun. All I do is crush a lot truth. My big pun and Fat Joe falling on you 50 feet below. Mike Fatso, Mark conscious coons frauds up with my firing squad. Tugging at emotions hard like sleeping, pulling a quad. Larry's no professor, show me some doctorate degrees, son. Won't listen to I'm African crap until I see one. I'm not asking for much, cause I give more than I ask asked for. Moorish MC, lay it down hot like asphalt. I won't cool though, some call me Fujo. Trying to get under my skin, you must be a Negro. Old folk get skull slow, lash with the tongue strap. Conscious coons wanna be gazy and make a comeback. Not on my watch, flow till time stops. Left and shot cause the round dog. Open up your mind blocks. Conscious. 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 Conscious.
Other one, Galatians. Malicious. Oh, Galatians. Galatians. We have them there. Now, these are church documents. But remember, when there came a time in 1506, after we lost power in Spain, the Africans ruled Spain from 711. We were calling ourselves Moors, M-A-U-E-R-S, then M-O-O-R-S. From 711 until 1485, 774 years, when we built and brought into Europe the university system, building the University of Salamanca, S-A-L-A-M-A-N-C-A in Spain, a copy of the university.
You sat down and you attacked the master teacher because you thought you heard something that you didn't hear. That's the first violation. You don't come in. First of all, you come in and you act like you come in peace, but you don't. You got an agenda.
Moors are men upright, independent and fearless. Dogmatized, dirty Moors, tongues cut out, left earless, cause they never listen. Dirty Moors, keep up your slant.
You sat down and you attacked the master teacher because you thought you heard something that you didn't hear. That's the first violation. You don't come in. First of all, you come in and you act like you come in peace, but you don't. You got an agenda.
Moors are men upright, independent and fearless. Dogmatized, dirty Moors, tongues cut out, left earless, cause they never listen. Dirty Moors, keep up your slander. Wu-Tang torture in your ass, hot hangers. Kidnapper, dirty Moor, torture him like Saw. 3D, 0.5 or 1 through 4, or get it like 5 or 6 with the fez on jigsaw. Leather face in a turban, rip dirty Moors lips off. Disrespecting the mother Raz Mariah Bay. Wrap him up like double crochet, the barbed wire way. Throw him off a bridge or feed him to the piranhas. Yellow journalist Moors spread nothing but propaganda. Idi Amin Bay, treat the temple like Uganda. Dirty Moors like foreigners, crush the dust like ganja. Not worthy of being Moors, we call them dirty Nehesus. Solomon Seal spell command 72 demons to get you.
This is what the temple guys actually say. That Canaan land is not a part of North America. Canaan land is bigger. Yo, it's ignorant, man. I mean, come on, you're talking about the same land, man. Canaan land is actually bigger than the land mass they know as the corporate United States. Almost twice as big. And if they had any sense, they can just go to Google and they can type in North America and find out North America goes all the way up to Green. But they're ignorant. They don't want to do that. They just dealing off emotions.
You might hear horse voices, see frog faces, and hoops for feet. Demons we run with, spit fire with gold wolf teeth. Keep playing, forget back teeth. New Moors are an issue, get Ginsu. Maybe a dream visit from Ishnu, a nightmare to never end and always continue. Cold as an igloo, dealing with my trust issues through vigilance. Active Moors are militants, SPLC dirty Moors call that sovereign citizen. Lying for views, they notice all the empty pews. Benz need gas and fixing, but not enough dues. Pigpen Bays sell you out for peanuts, claiming that we nuts for teaching birthright street level, keeping it beat nuts.
To any members of the MFTA that's out there listening to what I'm saying, please get it through your head. I don't have a problem with the MFTA. I got issues with
Kendrick Lamar, stay surrounded by pheasants. Dirty's guilty of fraud and duly scrutinize their ledgers. Getting proclamations from Morocco, disrespect us. Corporate city only recognize people's court jesters. Hand in their back, Moorish puppets and minions. Never get the human rights recognition like Moors near Virginia. Commonwealth, for active Moors knowledge, the Commonwealth. Dirty's claim more, but really on the straw man health. Authenticating a birth certificate, that's not significant. Civil little more two status syndicates. in more face. Watch them two more status Indians claiming Turtle Island are lying so intricate.
Long day and long night. But this message needed to be heard.
The people now called Negroes are the most and the least understood of the world's people. This term Negro demoralizes us and is detrimental. I feel it doesn't give us any association past the slave ship.
I think that the first task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself. And this word has no meaning or no worthwhile meaning at all in Africa. I would doubt myself if it has any useful meaning anywhere else.
Hold on a second. So, 1965, scholar guy, all the black guys, all of them together. Everybody giving their little opinion on this word, this label, Negro, which we know is not our language, you know, because we're colonized by the European. So we speak English. Negro is not English. But Negro means black. When you hear them say Negro, don't think about 1965 and all that stuff. Think about today. These people still calling themselves Negro. Still today. Whether they call themselves scholar, whether they call themselves entertainer, whether they call themselves dude on the corner, whether they call themselves teacher, guaranteed they're going to be playing some black game with you. Black is Negro, actually, not black. When they decided right here that Negro is some BS, then stuff went black. 65. We'll play them again. Islam more. Islam. I know you're waiting for this one. I say we start with this because this was just too much. Heritage of the Negro.
And it was crazy because they already knew about it.
Heritage of the Negro. So we're gonna start up again. We're gonna start up again because these are all the black scholar guys.
The people now called Negroes are the most and the least understood of the world's people. This term Negro demoralizes us and is detrimental. I feel it doesn't give us any association past the slave ship.
I think that the first task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself. And this word has no meaning or no worthwhile meaning at all in Africa. I would doubt myself if it has any useful meaning anywhere else.
Look at that.
Is a Negro? A simple question, but the answer is not so simple.
Who the hell are Negro people? Who's that?
Europeans saying it.
Who's Negro people? What is that? Remember, all they're showing right here is Moors. And all these people know this.
In the 60s.
All these people know. Okay, you know what? Let's just do it this way. Okay, all these people know this. Okay, Moore sent this to me today. The Mediterranean diet that benefits from the food from the Moors. From apricots to almonds to pine nuts and pistachios, Moorish flavors have a lasting impact on the Mediterranean cuisine. Not Negro black colored flavors, Moorish flavors. Not soul food and all that BS. Moorish flavors.
That's yeah.
Moorish flavors.
Yeah.
Why does it have a lasting impact? Because it tastes good? Or no, because it's from the Moors and we're ancient. Hell do you mean this is about some food? This is not about some damn food. This is about, they got the National Lifestyle article telling you about yourself. Moors. How are they telling you and you don't want to hear what we're saying? It seems as though a new study is published every other week lauding the benefits of Mediterranean cuisine, which is now looked upon as the healthiest diet in the world. What's not widely known, however, is the influence that the Moors, a group of Berber and Arab inhabitants, wielded on the region's gastronomy, what's come to be known as Moorish cuisine. If you can make a meal out of apricots, aubergine, almonds, artichoke, chickpeas, cumin, coriander, cardamom, lemons, saffron, pomegranates, bitter orange, figs, watermelon, ginger, pine nuts, pistachios, walnuts. What do you need to kill animals for? Remember, this is just dealing with those ingredients. What do you mean halal what? Halal what? What do you mean halal? What do you need halal for? What are you talking about? What do you mean God said you could? Hold on a second. If you step on an ant and that shakes the throne of Allah,
Right.
then what are you talking about? Halal, what do you mean? I don't get it. You guys have Quran and stuff, right? Okay. Just, not really understanding what's going on. Because under the Moors, they got Europeans putting out cookbooks telling you about Moorish vibrant recipes. Ben Tish.
We're still bringing them out of the dark ages today.
2019, still today, bringing the people out of the dark ages with Moorish meals. Samantha Cook's Moro, the cookbook. That's the name of her cookbook. Or Lucy Malouf's book, Moorish Flavors from Mecca to Marrakesh. That's the name of her cookbook.
Look at that.
That's the name of her cookbook. These people are playing around that you don't want to be Moors. These people are jacking your stuff. Nobu Ali told us about Mecca before she put Mecca on her book. These people don't have honors. They want to go against their ancient foremothers and forefathers. Who told them, their ancient foremothers and forefathers, who told them?
And the least understood of the world's people. This term, Negro, demoralizes us. It's detrimental. I feel it
It doesn't give us any association after slave ship.
Interesting.
I think that the first task of people of African descent, whether in the United States or in Africa or elsewhere, is to get rid of this slave named Negro.
What?
This curious word Negro was seldom or never used in Africa itself. And this word has no meaning, or no worthwhile meaning at all, in Africa. I would doubt myself if it has any useful meaning anywhere else.
What is a Negro?
That's not a Negro.
Question.
That's not a
But
Negro.
the answer is not so simple.
That's not a Negro. Those aren't Negroes. So why are they making it look like those are Negroes? They don't look black. They look kind of brown. Hair looks black.
My name is Ossie Davis. I'm an actor and a writer, and the narrator of our series of programs on the history of the Negro people. I'm also a Negro. What is a Negro? In Africa, the word Negro has no meaning. In Brazil.
Hold on. Didn't these people say that they come from over there and all that stuff? So you came from over there, and then you're over here now, and people are calling you something from over here, not from over there. How are you telling me you're from over there? If you say that you're black, which means you're Negro, and the term Negro has no meaning in Africa whatsoever, then how are those people claiming to be from there? If they're not calling you something from over there, they're calling you something from over here. Negro. Which today, 2019, they'll say black. And then they have black everything. Anything black, you can get it. There's a lot more. You have anything to say?
Yeah, it's crazy too, because even if you're seeing, you know, the slave story, you're agreeing with the slave story, all what Brother Sheldon broke down months ago, all of those slave stuff that they showed came from West Africa. All of that was part of the Moorish Empire. So even if you're saying you were part of the slave trade, you're a Moor. You're definitely a Moor. You're definitely a Moor, because all of those Moors came from the west of Africa. West of Africa, northwest Africa, west of Africa, all of that. That's the Moroccan Empire. They know that. That's documented. They don't even hide that. Like, all of that was part of the Moroccan Empire over there. So, like, if you came from slavery over there as part of that, you're still a Moor. You're not black guy, Negro. They didn't go over there and kidnap Negroes. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. Your sellout leader guys went along with the Negro and kept pushing it.
And remember, remember, they weren't pushing Negro, they were pushing black, which is still
right.
Negro.
Yep.
That the forefather scholars and foremother scholars, more than likely as well, knew that it's not about Negro. It's not about being called that. So how did our people happen to be called black then, if we were not down with being called Negro? The only way that it works is if you have some sellouts who know better and start saying, oh, you know what, let's just call ourselves black. And moving forward on that false premise. Moving forward is a lot more.
I'm sorry about that.
No, go ahead, man.
Just to add on to the whole thing, in the book, the Black Woman's, now we know this is misnomer, but it's called The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding the Black Man by Sister Sharazad Ali, right? In chapter 2, Identity, she says, trying to identify the black man or to get them to uniformly identify themselves is quite complicated. The cause of this complication is his overall unfamiliarity with his exact origin, aims, and purpose. Some of them spew various definitions and views about who they are. Over the past 50 years or so, they have changed their titles several times. So it is obvious that they are periodically undecided about who they are and unable to settle on a word that appropriately portrays who they wish to be. Now, she wrote this book in the 80s. They always knew. She continues to write. They have been called niggers, nigras, NIGRAHS, and claim that they do not like this label. They still tend to use this term, with each other facilitating between using its express foundness or as an insult. Later, they refer to themselves as colored. By order of the more educated among them, they settled for Negro for a short time. Now I'm gonna keep coming back and forth to this because she goes in, like she's gonna keep. She breaks down the whole thing, like how we went from colored, and like now it says like the more educated among them, they settled for the term Negro for a short time. Right. As years passed, they outlined another reference.
Well, here as well. These are those same ones that in the 80s when she wrote that, yeah, they were down with Negro. When she has the 80s as a reference point to say that, well, based on my studies, the elite amongst us were down with Negro. According to this, they weren't. They weren't down with Negro. The people who were the educated, talented 10th and all that stuff. If this is 65, then now we know exactly why John Henry Clark, when he was older, told these people about go get your nationality. Since he could see, he knew, forget Negro, that we must be Moors if we're not Negroes. We must be Moors. If the elite, remember, they have their quote unquote Negro actor doing the narration. But always keep in mind that they showed you the scholars in the beginning, letting you know, forget it. It is demoralizing to us. How is it demoralizing to us? And then the narrator guy is coming up talking about, yes, he's a Negro. There's a lot more.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Mo.
All right, I just got, the same chapter, chapter 2, Identity, same book. She continues, right? She says, as years pass, they outlined another reference contrary to their previous position of claiming they hated the term. They, after much prompting, preferred to be recognized as quote-unquote black. As the years progressed and they became more politically astute, they selected the modern term of African American. Their latest preference is to answer to being an African American or just African. He does not seem to be primarily concerned with locating the place of his beginning. He seemingly is satisfied with the settling on the African continent as his homeland. It has proven impractically to question them as a group regarding their identity, and the closest they come to being unified is to collectively state, quote unquote, I am a black man. And they deem this answer to be sufficient to define for their women and the world who they are and what their needs to consist of. Obviously, this system of vague explanation has not worked. Look, they've been new since the 80s. She just obviously this system of vague explanation for all those African American, colored, black, Negro, all of those are vague explanations that have not worked. They've been telling us this since the 80s. But so-called Negro sellout leader guys been still doing this, black power stuff. Like it's like, but the elders been saying it. It's not like, that's that Moorish stuff. Nope. Dr. Clark said it in 1965. He was starting it. The sister, Shiraza Ali, she was part of the Nation of Islam. She knew about the Moors, but she represented the Nation of Islam. And she's telling you all that black, African American, Negro, colored stuff, that's fraud. None of that works. She was saying it in the 80s. She continues. She says, any cohesiveness he has tried to have regarding his identity usually remains within elected geographical areas of inner cities.
setting up the jurisdiction, setting them up, backing them in the corner for the kill.
That is incredible.
Crazy. All because of a name.
Yep.
All because of not having a nation to call your own. Well, we have a nation, the Moorish nation. It might look messed up and all that stuff, but we still have a nation. We might need to do some house cleaning and all that stuff, but we still have a nation. We still have more than any Negro, black, colored, African, whatever has. And then that's still recognized today because you could see the flag out there flying. To know that that's still around today. The flag wouldn't be flying if it didn't exist. And we're not talking about some stuff over in Africa.
A Negro is a man who is very poor and very black. And in the United States, a man who has any quantity of Negro blood, or whatever that is considered a Negro. Are Negroes a race, a people, or a condition? Our programs will be asking this question in many ways and in many different settings. Our odyssey will take us throughout the world, to Africa, where we will explore the relationship of American Negroes to the land of their origin. To Brazil, where we will ask, is Brazil a racial paradise? And throughout the United States. Our aim in this series is both a modest and an ambitious one. We will be asking many questions and perhaps answer only a few. For there is a vast ignorance of Negro history among whites and Negroes, and the job of filling this vacuum is massive. Do Negroes have a heritage and a tradition like the Greeks, the French, the Anglo-Saxons? Or are we something less, as others have portrayed us? Everywhere we have looked, we have seen Negroes as savage and barbaric, humble and self-sacrificing, scared and childish and inferior. And I remember as a kid coming from some of the pictures, and we spent the whole time from the motion picture house to home, satirizing the Negro performances we saw in the film. Well, it was also an admission that somehow or other this was, to some degree, what we were. Now, these important and very, very impressionistic things that we got from these films did, to some degree, govern our behavior. When a Negro child goes
that we got from these films. Remember, it's not too long ago. This is not too long ago. What is it that they're doing today? The same game, because the Negro hasn't changed the paradigm. If still Negro, then you get Negro treatment. That's just what it is. And unfortunately, Negro treatment is how the beast stays alive. If there's no Negroes, the beast suffocates. The beast needs Negroes, blacks, coloreds, people to be stateless. The Moors telling you, they're doing it in the movies. Been doing it. Still going and not going with an open mind to not be caught up in the illusion that's projected. Remember, these are the scholars that the black guys rep. There's a lot more. You have anything to throw in?
It's just, I think we need to stress the fact a little bit more too, that this word Negro is like modernly that's black. Like that's today's black. Like, cause you know that black comes from Negro. Negro is black. So like today, modernly, that would be the same thing. It's the same thing. We need to stress that. Like it's the same thing today. The word black means it's the same thing as Negro. That is back then. How they be looking at how they're looking at Negro in the '60s. We should be looking at the term black in 2019 and African American, and it's the same thing. Like, cause that's what it is. And the sellout leader dudes, they know, they've seen this. This is their, like you said, this is their leaders. This is who they watch. This is what they seen. Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, and all of them. They seen this. This is what they were pumping. And then all of a sudden, something just changed. Something changed where they weren't promoting this anymore. Nobody's sticking to the identity. Like, she got a chapter about identity. They're talking about, is Negro a people or a condition? Just the thought of the question alone is amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, you guys were questioning this? I didn't even know you guys were questioning it. They make it seem like it wasn't even questioned, like it was just accepted.
Accepted, exactly. Exactly. The conditioning is that, like he's saying, they put certain things out to get a reaction from us. And based on our reaction, then that's what's going to go on. Bringing up again, Brother Sheldon, when his European friends are telling him, well, we called you, we started calling you black because you started calling yourself black. Like, what do you mean? We know that you're Moors, but if you're not calling yourself Moors, why would we call you Moors? These Europeans. Telling the Moor that we know that you're Moors. We know you're not Negroes, but that's what you want to be, yeah. Who are we to do? Who are we to deny you that? And on top of that, you're talking about their slave masters and all that type of madness. When again too. Now, once again, they know who they're talking about. When the Moors invaded West Cork and kidnapped Irish slaves, in the summer of 1631, the town of Baltimore in West Cork fell victim to a sensational attack by pirates. A town attacked by pirates. You can't keep playing the game like we didn't do messed up stuff. Half of what we're going through is karma, because you reap what you sow. That's just what it is. You're going to reap what you sow. Whether you have belief in it or not, or faith in it or not, or hope or whatever, is irrelevant. You're going to reap what you sow. Simple. We've done things. And the karmic debt was so great is why Noble Drew Ali came. To get us back on course with civilization and where humanity was going at the time, which is 1920s. There's a fear that these people have of us waking up. And like we keep saying, wake up doesn't have anything to do with getting some knowledge. Wake up has to do with, do you have a nationality yet? Or you still Negro? You still black? You still Negro and black? Still playing this game like you're a victim? When 100 men, women, and children were stolen by you, of Europeans, dark-skinned people, Barbary corsairs. I know Europeans or no pale Arabs. That's us.
Yeah.
Claim your dirt too. Don't just claim all the good stuff that you did.
Yeah.
So then you're a hypocrite.
To add on, Grant Sheet, to the piracy too. Remember, this has been thousands of years of going back and forth. You know, like the piracy kicked up big time too when in the medieval time, because that's when we got kicked out of Spain, and a lot of the ancestors was trying to get revenge. When they got kicked out and they started plotting around and sitting around in Morocco, they were plotting on how to get revenge.
Right.
And a lot of the things was, we're going back to piracy. We're about to kidnap and extort Europeans. You're gonna kick us out of our own home, like, and that's what but that's the back and forth.
But then also too, historically, they're gonna make it a play like it's a rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Moors are in the wrong for rebelling against the Spanish because of Spain and Ferdinand, Isabella, and what. No, that's not what was going on. They were trying to get their stuff back.
Right.
They got bullied on the playground and they went for their bike back. Right? Yeah, go ahead, more.
Because that place
Pardon the
wasn't
introduction.
even known as Spain into the 18th century.
Right.
They weren't even calling it Spain. That's Al-Andalus. That's new that they would call it that. Everybody know that's the home of the Moors. Everybody know that's the Moors' home. European, they're modern Europeans.
Modern.
None of that. None of that. That's why even when you look at historically, like, we always try to stress the point too. Like Ferdinand and Isabella, that wasn't Jim Carrey and Britney Spears. You know, that wasn't. Those was Moors against Moors. How could Jim Carrey and Britney Spears, we give them the key when they're held in slavery at this time? They're slaves at this time. How? They're in harems. They're held in slaves and dungeons and stuff. Like we read about it all the time. So how could we give them the key if they're held in slavery? I remember I was going in on the Grand Sheet. I was looking up the definition of Spain, and there's no such thing as a Spaniard. That doesn't even exist. Those were Moors, dirty Moors, who switched sides, who didn't want to do the 5 principles, and those were all just dirty Moors who was like, you know what? Nope, we Moors, but we not doing that. We going against all of that. Mm-hmm. Like Asir was going in on that. He was like, "Oh, those was the pork-eating Moors, Moors that wanted to eat pork and stuff like that." I was like, "Yo, that's right. That's what those Moors was.
That's them right there. The swine Moors."
Yeah. That's who we felt.
the bacon back Moors. The bacon back Moors.
We didn't fall to pale Europe. No, those people were held in harems. That's why we got the pale Arabs now. Right. Those are the descendants of the Christian mothers that was in the harems. That's what that is.
Straight.
They try to make it seem like we was enslaved. They everywhere. Every time you try to, like, the Moors, us, was how? A slave is a Slavic. How were we the slaves at this time? That's totally impossible. Mm-hmm. Now, today, and when we read the books and stuff, watch the history and what they write in the plays, the movies and stuff, now it'll make it look like they were the ones and stuff. No, none of that happened. I don't even know how. When you can get the 3-volume book from S.P. Scott, The Moors in Europe, 3 volumes, the Moorish Empire in Europe. Let me get that right. The Moorish Empire in Europe.
Empire in Europe. Yeah.
How can we have an empire in Europe but be slaves?
Yeah.
3 volumes.
400 years of slavery.
That's great.
Into a movie, for instance, and sees himself or sees another Negro in an unfavorable light, he feels to some degree threatened. He feels uncomfortable, and a great deal of his laughing at that situation will be the kind of laughter that protects him. It's a nervous attack against him, himself, the way he looks at himself, the esteem with which he holds himself, and how he will rate with his fellows in the streets. It's seeing something happen to you that you can't control, which leaves a scar, which leaves you feeling inadequate. You don't feel loved. You're ashamed to look at yourself, ashamed to go home, ashamed to talk to the boys next door, ashamed even to ask these questions of your parents, although sometimes you do. It's a horrible situation, and sometimes we never get over that.
As a Negro, I honestly tried to believe that I was somebody. And I've always fought during my life to keep that feeling that I did have some value. And I say value knowing what that word means. And there's been many a night in my life when I've gone to sleep and known very deep inside me that I really wasn't worth much.
Right? That's the true psychological warfare against yourself, calling yourself black, Negro, African, whatever. Calling yourself the name of some island that got some independence from some European. When you're Moors, you're part of an empire over here. It's not a fiction. Like the Moors said, 3 volumes. Three volumes. And a lot of what we suffer today is because of the infliction of the sorcery on ourselves by accepting the BS instead of doing research. If Moors weren't doing research, he wouldn't vibrate on the frequency that this would fall in his lap. 2019, find out that these people knew what was up. It's documented.
They knew, yep.
They talk about so-called Negro and stuff like that. What do you mean? Only Moors say that. You're talking the labels. And it's that thing.
Yeah, that's what's amazing too, yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Moore.
Yeah, that's what's really amazing, because they make it seem like that's that Moorish talk. Like, as soon as people like, oh, that we're not Negro, colored, black. Oh, that's not what's important right now. Wait a minute. Dr. Clark and them been talking about it since '65. That's your leader guy, ain't it? That's who y'all talk about. That's who, Dr. Henry Clark, Dr. Ben. Yeah, well, they've been talking about it since '65, that we shouldn't be called these terms.
You're not hearing that, though.
No.
You don't want to hear that, though.
He's told them numerous times.
Do not really know what being a Negro is or what it means. It means that my skin is a little bit
very deep inside me that I really wasn't worth much.
I still do not really know what being a Negro is or what it means. It means that my skin is a little bit darker. It means that my cultural exposures have been somewhat different to other ethnic groups. It may even mean that as a human being, I might be more sensitive to need and despair.
Oh, yes, that wish I was white kind of thing. When you begin to sort of get the feeling of difference, like maybe you're dirty or something's wrong. But there was that feeling, so early you can't even remember where it started. I'm not over it yet. It's part of my American heritage.
Right. So also then, 65, these Europeans already claimed they're American. Because listen to how the Negro's talking. Like the American life is not his. The American life is Aboriginal indigenous life. That's not some Europeans. The West life, the Western life, that's not some Europeans. Europe's in the East. The hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean Babylon, the West, and all that type of stuff? And then you're looking at Northwest of Maxim as some forbidden land of some beast system or whatever. What the hell are you talking about? It's only because of your statelessness why the beast is over here.
Yep.
Only because of statelessness. Tribal war. Always going against your own like a dumbass instead of just uniting and dealing with the real enemy if you want to fight somebody. You really want to go shoot somebody, not the guy that stepped on your shoes or whatever. But nah, you're not going there. Because the Negro mentality is Europeans' God. So mind yourself with God. We're gonna do whatever to these brothers and niggers and blacks and whatever out here. We'll treat them anyhow. Women will treat them anywhere. Let Europeans step up and see what happens.
We were told we were a people without a past and without a future. And Negro boys and girls learned before very long that they were something special.
You know, at an early age, as soon as you start school, you begin to catch on to the whole racial thing. But once you get into school, you begin to know it and know there's a difference and that the difference is against you.
There's no real reference to me as a Negro or to my father or any of the other Negroes who have contributed so much to the growth of the United States. And I really can't understand it.
I'll never forget the picture in the geography book of a couple of very ragged Africans, you know. Weeks before we got to the lesson, we were steeling ourselves for it. Some Negro child would find the picture first in the book before we got to the lesson and alert everyone. Look on page 22, you see what's there. And then we dreaded reaching that lesson because it was always something about the savages not knowing anything. And we had to sit there and hear this, and instinctively the white children would turn and look at the Negro children, you know, while this lesson was going on.
Look at that.
Right?
Look at that. Look at that.
That's crazy.
It's Green Sheik.
Yeah, boy.
Now, because that reminds me too, because I remember my grandmother told me years ago that the education got messed up once they ended segregation. Like once we started once they started going to school with them Europeans, she said that's when schools started becoming different. Like we started learning different. She said it was better when it was separate. And when I was younger, when she used to say that, I'd be like looking at my grandma like, why would you say something like that? I remember her saying, she said it a couple of times. And I'd be like, grandma, that's the craziest thing in the world. Like, why would you say that? And then realizing now, like, what was going on. Like, okay, like if you do the research on this, the segregation, you can go thank your Boule Mason, Thurgood Marshall, 33rd degree Master Mason, first so-called black Supreme Court judge guy. He the one that fought for this, that made sure that we would end segregation and go to school together. He promoted this. And he was part of the NAACP, who was funded and backed by Jews, the Jesuits. He was part of this. Thurgood Marshall, sellout guy. Our so-called leader, sellout guy, first black Supreme Judge guy, him. He's responsible for all of this. For people back in the day to be getting in class, looking at geography books, getting clowned by Europeans, looking at them like, because they just read something with beastie-looking people talking about us. And now they're looking around in class like, oh, they're referring to these people.
Right, and then think about that psychology now. Sit in that European seat now. You tell me they're not gonna have some sense of superiority?
Yeah.
Until they go outside and get it effed up and then get effed up. Because this is not no goddamn textbook out here. We'll beat your ass. You know, skinheads and all that stuff going on. If you're in school or whatever, that's just some Europeans. That's not those skinheads or whatever. Maybe some heavy metal dudes or whatever. But don't even try it. Don't even think that I'm one of those people in that book or whatever. You're crazy. Like think about that superiority complex that they're leaving with. Imagine the one who doesn't look around the room, that just looks at the picture like, hey, those look like those niggers back there. This is what they're thinking, huh? Those look like those niggers back there. Those blackies. They would go through their life thinking that our people are savages. They would go through their whole entire life. Be successful too. Right? Not because they're racist, because they have a superiority complex and all is mental. You will be superior if you have a superiority complex. Superior in something. It might be only lower self stuff. You'll be superior in that. They can't pass a certain level. Unless, like they were saying in the beginning, everybody that has dropping nigger blood or whatever is a Negro. And you know them Europeans, because of our piracy, you know they got some Negro blood in them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know those, you know. That's why Anur Madrid said, we are all Moors. Like, sorry, don't get mad. Don't get mad. Again, this is to put it out there that 65 they were talking how Moors talk. Right? You would have never heard reference point of grandma. When they took away segregation. When stuff got messed up.
Yep.
When we weren't fending for ourselves like we're supposed to, if we're liberated, why would we want to be in school with them if we could have our own school? Had to be Negro leaders.
And so Africa became our shame and our torment. We were told that our past was barbarism and the white man our redeemer. Slavery was a sin, but salvation. Few of us had anything to look forward to. We were afraid to look back. In 1958, Lorraine Hansberry wrote a play, A Raisin in the Sun. It showed the conflicts created for American Negroes by their African past.
Well, what have we got tonight? You are now looking at what a well-dressed Nigerian woman would wear. Isn't that beautiful?
Hey, look, honey, we're going to the theater. We're not going to be in it, you know.
George, I don't like that. Do you expect this boy to go out with you looking like that? Well, now that's up to George, if he's ashamed of his heritage.
Oh, dear. Here we go again. A lecture on our African past, on our great West African heritage. In 1 second, we're going to hear all about the great Ashanti empires, the Songay civilizations, the sculpture of Benin, some poems in the Bantu, and then the whole monologue is going to end up with the word heritage. Let's face it, baby, your heritage ain't nothing but a bunch of raggedy spirituals in some grass hut.
Right.
Yo. Showing you.
She's
Back
trying
in
to
the
be
day,
herself.
Yep.
She's trying to be herself. Got a turban on and everything. Trying to be herself. And here he goes with his European suit.
Mm-hmm.
Now people keep talking about Joel, he wore a suit and whatever. No, he always had the robe over the suit. Get the hell out of here. The robe was always superior to the suit. It's not about no damn suit. It's about the Moorish garb over the suit. So you can keep the posture. Because Moors sleep too much.
Mm-hmm.
So the suit will keep you upright. Have sister in her turban, being her Moorish self, Nigerian. She didn't say she's African. She didn't play that she's African. What is the African culture? No, she said Nigerian. And then you already know the Igbo wear fezzes and all that stuff. So stop playing around like it's not Moors we're talking about when we say Nigeria.
George, you think you would rather stand there in your splendid ignorance and know absolutely nothing about the people who were the first that smelled iron on the face of this earth while the Ashantis were performing surgical operations when the English were still tattooing themselves with brew dragons.
At the Heritage Program of How You Act, a federally sponsored effort to develop better opportunities for Harlem's Negro youth, a new version of African history is being taught. Robert Moore is a visiting lecturer.
Mr. Moore, do you think that the so-called Negro would...
No, forget what Mr. Moore might say. But let's just it can't just go like this for no reason. It has to go like this because it's right along with the frequency. How is it that they're bringing up Mr. Moore? Of all the people who could be the guy who's doing whatever, Mr. Moore's the one. Just like of all the people to found some ADOS or whatever, it has to be somebody with L and then somebody called Moore. You're for real, and you're just gonna keep missing.
Yeah.
Just gonna keep being denial. You stay there in denial. Like Brother Yusuf says, let them talk.
Yep. Islam,
Islam, boy.
Yeah, you might have to rewind it because everything right there, she just did love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. He wasn't honoring it. She did exactly what the prophet said. If he keep bothering you, drop the world on him. Because she told him right in the beginning. He came in the house talking, I hope you not wearing that, talking crazy. First thing she said, and she said it smoothly. She said, I don't like that, George. she didn't cuss him out yet. Nothing. She just like, I don't like that, George. Like this.
The olive branch.
She was being real lovely. She was like, I don't like that, George. And then George started going in.
George went in.
What you think? You did some hut, West African stuff, big thing. And then, all right, I told you I didn't like it. You didn't want to stop there? All right, I'm going to let you have it now. Didn't she? Now she's slamming doors, going through rooms, everything. You didn't just leave the mother. You should have left her alone.
Left the mother alone, yo. Leave the mother alone.
I don't like that, George.
Leave the mother alone. Do you
now she tell you you're standing there in your own ignorance. Look at you.
look at you. Look at you. Let's run her again. Let's run her again. Give thanks, Brother Yusuf. Honors to all the mothers. Honors to all the mothers who know about their birthright. Say it again, what?
She was amazing from the beginning. Right off rip, he came in the house talking crazy. I don't like that, George. I was like, oh.
He's about to get it, I know. His love to the mothers.
She said it's so lovely, too. I don't like that, George.
Smooth, yo.
You know, right now.
Smooth.
Well, what have we got enough? You are now looking at what a well-dressed Nigerian woman would wear. Isn't that beautiful?
Hey, look, honey, we're going to the theater. We're not going to be in it, you know.
George, I don't like that. Do you expect this boy to grow up with you looking like that? Oh, now that's up to George. If he's ashamed of his heritage.
Okay, here we go again. A lecture on our African past, on our great West African heritage. In 1 second, we're going to hear all about the great Ashanti empires, the Songay civilizations, the sculpture of Benin, some poems in the Bantu, and then the whole monologue is going to end up with the word heritage. Let's face it, baby, we're nothing but a bunch of raggedy spirituals and some grass huts.
Grass huts? You'd rather stand there in your splendid ignorance and know absolutely nothing about the people who were the first that smelled iron on the face of this earth while the Ashantis were performing surgical operations. When the English were still tattooing themselves with blue dragons.
At the Heritage Program of How You Act, a federally sponsored better opportunities for Harlem's Negro youth. A new version of African history is being taught. Robert Moore is a visiting lecturer.
Mr. Moore, do you think that the so-called Negro would dignify his identity by associating himself with his ancestral background?
After some 300 or 400 years of transplantation from Africa into America, it is obvious that we are not Africans anymore. We are Afro-Americans, Americans of African ancestry. And that connects us, basically, with our original heritage and culture.
The accomplishments of Africa before and after...
Director of the program is John Henrik Clark.
Is generally glossed over or neglected in human history. A lot of this, the misconception of Africa and the distortion of African history is involved in a word that is relatively new, the word Negro, a kind of nickname that grew out of European laziness, the inability or the lack of a desire to give Africans their proper identity. In the period when the Europeans had to justify the exploitation of Africa and the demeaning of a whole people, they systematically started the effort to leave the African out of human history.
A great deal of our ignorance of African history sits upon the old conservative racial discrimination and prejudice which we have had in Europe.
Basil Davidson is a British writer and historian on Africa.
States. It still sits upon the belief, perfectly unscientific, quite unbased in any scholarly discipline, that the Africans, that is to say, if you like, the Negroes, are people of some sort of inferiority to others, and therefore have not been able to develop in the same way. Now, you know, the great myth of the colonial era, the great myth took the shape of saying that the Africans, the Negroes, are children, and because they are children, it said, failing.
What? Yeah. The kings, queens, European whoever's, royal guards, dark-skinned people with feathers on, just like with what we showed yesterday with not KKK, Spanish heritage. Feathers on some European occupier soldiers might not be Moors in that context, how people are looking at it. They might be some soldiers and that's just their uniform.
Colonial era, the great myth took the shape of saying that the Africans, the Negroes, are children, and because they are children, it said, failing to develop, we, the Europeans, you, the Americans, must go in there and show them the way they should go, civilize them, introduce them to the blessings of orderly life. One of the misunderstandings, you see, about Africa is the apparently primitive material nature of their civilization. You look at these people living in these villages and you wonder, what is their past? Do they have a past? What lies behind it all? They have nothing but a few straw buildings, nothing but a few cattle. It seems quite inconsiderable. The Dinka, for example, have no stone in their country. They have almost no metal. Half their country is underwater half the year. They cannot build and could never possibly build an imposing material civilization, but their achievement was, of course, to learn how to master their environment, and this they have done with quite outstanding success, so that the outside picture, the superficial picture, gives no indication at all of the depth of their culture. These are the people who have mastered the problems of taming this difficult, vast continent with all its extraordinarily great obstacles to living, its swamps, its deserts, its mountains, and its forests. The story of Africa over the last 2,000 years has been one of quite epic dimensions.
Africa. Endless deserts, scorching and windswept by day, bitterly cold at night. And the Sahara, the world's largest desert, a harsh, bleak expanse of land, challenging anyone to cross it. Snow-capped mountains near the equator, gigantic waterfalls.
Now keep in mind, as you're watching this, gigantic waterfalls, there's Niagara Falls is a gigantic waterfall. Don't get caught up that you're hearing them say in Africa and your mind's over there. All the stuff that they're talking about is over here.
Yep.
There's deserts here.
Yep.
There's deserts on this side.
Yep. Plenty of deserts.
Don't lose it. Thinking they're not talking about over here too. But trust me, these people know. They already want that they let off already. You better know that they know. And because remember, this is part of the part of the lulling you over. They're still not dealing with the fact what's the identity of these people. They're still going with over there.
Yep.
But again, like we were saying in the beginning, they're called something from over on this side. They call them Africans. We started saying that we're Africans. Nobody called us that. They call us Negro. Until Drew Ali came again and changed the paradigm. We're not Negro, black or colored.
Right. They never even heard of that African American paradigm yet. It wasn't even around.
Shattered all the fictions. And again, shattered the fiction that over here is also Africa.
Right.
That's why he dug in the ground and he found stuff with Egyptian writing over here. Because over here is Egypt too.
Just to add on to that real quick, Grand Sheik.
Yeah, man.
The geologists in Georgia, quote unquote, they consider from Georgia on northeast is considered North Africa. They call it that. The Georgia geologists call from Georgia on over is North Africa. That's what the geologists of Georgia consider it. And also, they talk about the Alps, the Alps mountains in the Alps and the Atlas Mountains. The Alps mountains, I think, is the ones that's quote unquote over there in Morocco, and the Atlas mountains are here, or vice versa. But at one time, those were the same mountains. They were both connected. Both of those mountains. When it was so-called Pangea, they make it seem like it was 500 million years ago that both of those mountains were connected. They say that's when New Jersey and Mauritania were connected. But then if you look up what have archaeologists found in the Atlas and the Alps mountains, they have found footprints, 500 million years old, but not only footprint, a shoe print with the sole and everything. You can Google it. Google it. 500 million years ago. Make it seem like Moors wasn't always here. He was always here. Shoe prints 500 million years ago.
Shoe prints. And again, these people know.
Yeah.
From Iceland to Algiers. New book on Earth's true story of pirates and slaves. Some of the strangest and most enigmatic books. It's a damn commercial. Make sure you read some books. Make sure you go read some. And check this one. Weeklyblitz.net. Islamic conquest, Western nations, and the history. There's a little much in there. There's a lot more. You had anything to add in?
No, I was just, because now I'm watching the class, so I'm just finished. You just said the video. Now I'm just seeing the video on my thing. So like the, like the playback is.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? So now, usually I don't watch it. You know what I mean? So I would have had something.
Yeah.
So it messed me up now.
No worries. Yeah. I'm just trying to remember where this thing starts up again. I think somewhere around.
Shouldn't have been watching it. I usually don't watch
The jungle mists and rain almost daily. These were some of the barriers to penetration. To the outside world, it was the dark continent, a land of mystery, where stories were spread of giants and dwarfs, of people whose heads grew under their arms, of monstrous animals. It is here, in this forbidding other world, that what may be the remains of the first man were discovered. In 1950,
Like, for example, how they were showing all the different animals, right? Remember, they're trying to put in the psyche that Africa's some dangerous or whatever, the savages or whatever, but they're not showing any savages. They're showing wild animals. That's the same psychology, like what Phil Valentine was talking about, that in the future, which is now, they're gonna not even have people in commercials anymore. They're just gonna be using little cartoon stuff to show you the people's worth. How they think of the people. They have bears using toilet paper. Why is a bear using toilet paper? This is a commercial for the. And just like the elder was saying, it's the same psychology. They do it through the movies. But because people are dumb, and when they say movies, we're talking about the screens, the idiot boxes.
Yeah.
Which includes some of the stuff people looking at right now. Not just on the wall flicking channels. Stuff people pulling out their pockets at idiot box, handheld idiot box.
Yeah. And to add on to it too, Great Sheep, I'm guilty of it too, but with the cartoons being in the commercials and not putting people, we even do it in our own writing, in our own literature, with the emojis, with the abbreviations, like with our LOLs, like that's the cartoons. We don't even like that. We didn't write like that back in we even talk like that. People even say LOL in the middle of a conversation, LOL. And I'm like, oh, wow, you can say that? Because it's like becoming fake. It's cartoon. Even in our own literature, in our own writing, we put emojis all the time. When we study, the thing, like I tell my boys, the thing is, we know what's going on. It's a difference between somebody who's doing it, because that's all they know. You know what I mean? When there's somebody like, okay, I know what's going on. I know what you're doing. You know, like, at least we know what's going on. People out here, they're using it. You know, like the girl who wrote, we talked about this a couple of years ago, man. She, like 2 years ago. The girl, it was on the news, the girl wrote her paper, her English paper, in text form. She wrote it like it was a text, like she was text messaging.
Yeah.
That's how she wrote her paper. That's how bad it's getting. That's how, like, so when you bring that up, that, wait, who you say was to Valentine?
Yeah.
That was crazy you bring that up, because that's true. It's going around crazy, which is now, like you said, which is now.
Yeah, that stuff manifested, for real.
Yep.
In Tanganyika, a scientific expedition had been digging for weeks in the sun-baked earth, looking for traces of the earliest man. Then, in July, Dr. Louis Leakey and his team found what he called Zinjanthropus, nicknamed the Nutcracker Man because of the strength of his jaws. He was about 600,000 years old, and maybe the creature that makes Africa the real cradle of mankind.
That guy, Sasquatch. Remember the theme of the Negro beast. The Negro being a beast of the field. And them having to do anything that they can to tie the Moor to that, because he doesn't know himself. And she doesn't know herself. And they're playing games like what Moors are saying is not what's up and what's really supposed to be going on. American Islamophobia is as old as Plymouth Rock. Why would they be scared of Islam over here? Why are they making reference to before this time of Islamophobia? Because the Moors had jurisdiction over here. These were Barbary states over here. They just told you on the thing from Iceland to Algiers. The only fraud is that if you don't know the code word, you think pirates is some Captain Hook or whatever. You just call them dirty Moors. That's all. Keep it simple. Islam more. Yeah, muted. Yeah, he must be muted.
Fill the gaps in our knowledge. In the Western Sudan, Negro kingdoms
I was on mute during shit.
I know, man.
Walled and fortified cities, markets, and fairs.
You got anything?
Yeah, I wanted to add on with the Norman shit, how he even speaks of, because you was talking about Muslims in America early, and the Pope even signed a creed banning Moors from America in the 15th century?
Mm-hmm.
How you banning Moors from here during the 15th century? 1500s. Moors was banned from here. Not like how could if they why would you ban slaves? Like those supposed to be slaves. Moors supposed to be the Moors were slaves. How could you ban? Why would you ban slaves? The only people you would ban is the people who got stuff in order. Like, okay, we can't have them. We can't have that over here. when they come over here, it's issues. But when they was banning us from over here, it's like the way they tell the history is like in Spain, or quote unquote Spain, which is Al-Andalus, the Moors' home. We didn't rebel, and like make it seem like we took it back from Spain. And no, they make it seem like that over here, like we're rebelling and we're trying to get our like they were here and now we're rebelling, trying to get. No, we're not rebelling. This was already ours. This was ours. That's why I'm like the way they make it seem like we were banned in the 15th century. We were already here. Yeah. We were already here, and they were trying to start kicking the Moors out of Morocco here, just like they did in Al-Andalus, and try to rename it and stuff like that, and make it seem like, oh, they wasn't part of here. Those was barbaric Indians and stuff like that, and which we know now is Los Indios, which was always the Moors. It's always Moors. All these new terms and stuff that's going on. So many of them. They're all new, like very new. They're not even modern. They're brand new.
Only one ancient name. One ancient name. There's only one ancient name. And that's that we're Moors.
And maybe the creature that makes Africa the real cradle of mankind. The records of ancient Africa begin with Egypt about 3000 BC. Its spectacular achievements of the monumental pyramid and brooding sphinx have always been credited to Asia and the Mediterranean. But there is growing evidence that Egypt owes more than originally thought to the land to the south, Kush, the land of the Negroes. About 700 BC, Kushite kings conquer Egypt and become the 25th dynasty. Little is known today about the land of Kush, but in the ancient world, it was highly respected. In 1791, the French philosopher Count de Valny wrote of the Kushites, a people now forgotten, discovered while others were yet barbarians, the elements of arts and the sciences. Then, in about 325 AD, Kush is attacked and destroyed and disappears from our view. For the rest of Africa, there is little we can say for certain. Except for the Kushites, Africans had no writing. They kept in their memories the history of their people. Stories narrated down from generation to generation. This oral tradition must tell us much of the history that will fill the gaps in our knowledge.
In the Western Sudan, Negro kingdoms arise in the medieval periods.
There ain't no Negro kingdoms. This was moving away from Negro, but they're talking about Negro kingdoms and Negro whatever else. Man coming up up front, I'm a Negro and all that. You know, yeah, thanks. Giving reference to some ancient cultures. But we know that there has to be compromises. because Moors know that when you start talking about Moors, whole paradigm shift.
Oh yeah.
When you move out of Negro, black, and colored and whatever, and you enter the realm of Moors, you go through a vortex. You go from one state to another state in the same lifetime. You feel the shift happen. You actually feel the shift.
Yep. To add on to that real quick,
yeah, man.
I remember you did a class years ago, and I was tuning in the class, and you was going in about a brother you was building with, and he had called you, and he was like, Great Sheik, I'm starting to see symbols everywhere. Everywhere I look, I see symbols. And at the time, I'm just coming into it, so I'm like, what is it? What he mean by that? So I was like, man, I can't wait to see what these symbols is he's talking about. And like years later, when it starts happening, and I remember the conversation, you know what I mean? Like to hear, I was like, yo, I know what that brother was talking about. Like years later, I'm like, you see the symbols everywhere. Like I was like, wow, they were everywhere, and they were like always in front of me, always there. Like you could see. Like I'm like, yo, I've seen this thing every day and never knew this. No, never noticed this at all, and it was here all my life.
Yeah.
Like, and you start seeing the symbols. Like I remember you was going in on that on the class years ago. I was like, man, this is crazy. Can't wait to get to that part. Where I can see the symbols.
Yeah.
It's a whole paradigm shift.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then when, now, when you get to there now you have to be able to pick up the symbols and decipher them and get ready for the next one's coming, because it's gonna be tsunami.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be, you're definitely gonna miss some signals. You're definitely gonna miss some signals. And then just like the Matrix, as soon as you get your bearings, everything slows down so you can see what's going on. And you can really appreciate the beauty of knowing thyself and understanding the truth about nationality. Because you're going to become it. You're going to be nationality and birthrights. It's not going to be something you're talking about anymore. You're going to be it. And again, a lot of the information that we get is our foundation. We're not throwing away stuff and dissing or whatever. We're bringing things to a reality of where our people need to be, have to be at this point. Those who don't want to be there, it's cool. Like, as more as we say already, we got our birthright. I could give a what anybody wants to do personally. But, we know that people are going to be waking up. And we have a prophet. And he said, keep the doors open. Go to the temple, sit there for an hour and a half. If nobody comes, take the temple, go home. Because you did your part. Now, if you open the doors now and then, floodgates, because Jwali said, I'm going to open up the floodgates or whatever like that. And so many people are going to be coming. You're going to need 16 secretaries. Because we already know pressure, bust pipes.
That's the truth.
And there's build up right now. Like this thing has to release. Pressure cooker has to release.
Yeah.
Pressure cooker has to release.
That's why I tell my brother that. I be like, Rome got their foot on their neck. Their head about to burst. because Rome got that pressure on your neck. Rome got that foot on your neck. And you feel it. Sitting there wondering why this, why that. Keep telling them, yo, it's not going to go away. Your children going to get it. Your children's children going to get it. Until what we do, what that man came and told us in 1913.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta do that. If we don't do that, the worst has yet to come.
Mm-hmm. And like Brother Taj said, we're dealing with some of that worse already.
Yep.
So don't get it twisted. Like the worst is yet to come. You're looking down there like, how much time we got before? No, there's worse here already. Shut the hell up. We are facing worse already.
Mm-hmm. We just in it. You just in it. Like that, the water situations and stuff like that. They just talk about it now. Water been had all that crazy. The prophet was saying it in the 20s. Don't you drink that water? Better boil that water.
You better boil that water.
And that was in the 20s. So now what? What you supposed to do with the water now?
20s.
It's been 100+ years since then. What are we supposed to do with the water now?
Right. You had sent me this one, Brother Yusuf, hiking the Appalachian Trail? No. Hiking the Appalachian Trail to Morocco? I remember who sent this.
I didn't even open up that one.
So around this time of year. Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you sent me four articles. I was like, man, where you find all of these articles?
Yeah, I think one of them somebody sent, I think. But okay, so around this time of year, hikers on the Appalachian Trail hit the midway point in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. The Appalachian Trail, as it is known, AT, stretches from Georgia to Maine, all along the Appalachian Mountains. It's probably the best-known footpath in America. So a recent headline about the trail possibly expanding into Morocco seems a little crazy. Turns out it actually makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I know the article. I sent you that.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, man.
Okay.
So yeah, so you could, so you could go on this one because I know you read it already.
But I don't see the article in front of me.
Oh, you don't? Okay. All right. Yeah, I read it. All right. Dick Anderson is behind the idea to make AT an international trail. The way he sees it, more than 200 million years ago, the mountain ranges were all connected anyway. Back when the Earth had only one giant continent called Pangaea. That landmass broke apart, and when it opened, some of the Appalachians stuck to each big piece, Anderson says. The big pieces were Africa, Europe, and United States. So Anderson is trying to get all of the countries that were once connected by that mountain range to designate certain parts as part of the International Appalachian Trail, or IAT. People are taking the idea of a supersized hiking path seriously. There's already an 1,800-mile section of the IAT in Canada. It starts at the end of the American leg of the trail in Maine and goes all the way up the coast of Newfoundland. Anderson says a number of people have already hiked the entire path.
Look at this. You see what these Europeans is doing? While we sitting here still trying to get these people to proclaim their nationality, these people already know they're in Morocco. They noticed the empire. People making trails now. Like, you know what? Let's just travel the Moroccan Empire and see how this goes.
Probably getting federal grants and everything.
Oh, yeah. Because we know there's no United States. We know there's no United States. Like, that's not a landmass.
Yeah, that's definitely
So we know they talking about Morocco. Like, that whole thing is just Morocco.
Know that it was a fiction.
Like, that's real. They're saying you can hike that now. You can hike. How? How could you do that? That shouldn't even be a sentence. I'm confused. I'm still confused. I'm like, wait a minute, how are they doing this? Well, technically, since it was all connected, you're still I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you ain't saying it.
They went metaphysical on them.
Right. Yeah.
They went metaphysical on them.
I know what you're saying, but you ain't saying it.
June 19th. June 18th. Sorry, 2019. June 18th, 2019. Moors and Christians beamed live to U.S. from Almeria. Mojacar's Moors and Christian celebrations can boast genuine international fame. For the first time, U.S. television network ABC broadcast live images of Sunday evening spectacular grand procession on its Good Morning America program. The connection to the network, a flagship property of Walt Disney Television, came from the highly prestigious New York-based Associated Press news agency. American viewers were treated to the sight of locals dressed in their full glorious festival finery as they made their way down from the village square to the public fountain, marching and dancing in step with the strident rhythms belted out by the bands. To see us on an American television channel like ABC on such an important program with such a big audience, exclaimed Mojacar tourism counselor Emmanuel Aguero Leclerc. The impact of this kind of promotion all adds up to the municipality advancing in terms of tourism and continually expanding its markets. This year, Moors and Christian celebrations were resounding all around. The councilor reported the municipality buzzing from the moment of the celebration starting up on Friday night. Trust me, these people know what's up. Be fooled to thinking that they don't know. They know exactly what's up.
It's like they play the yin and the yang game all day.
Yeah.
As soon as the Moors, we do something of us being a Moor, they make it seem like, oh, these people who call them, these black people who call themselves Moors, but then to big up the Moors, they be like, oh, the Moors were the ones who did it. They gave, like the article you read earlier, with like the health benefits that the Moors gave. You know, it's like they do big up the Moors, but when the Moors go and do something, they're like, no, shun it. But then they give it, historically, they try to make it seem like, oh, the Moors were the ones, like, because they always show it. They show it everywhere. You know, the Moors we always show the videos of, look, they're showing Moors doing this, doing that. But then when the Moors today go do something, they go, oh, these African Americans who call themselves Moors. It's like, yo, how did y'all guys do this? How did you, like, you know we're the Moors. Like, don't play this African American crap.
Don't play the African American crap, because they all know that we're Moors. Balboa, Swordsman and Conquistador by Felix Reisenberg Jr. Balboa was among those chosen to intercept the Moors.
Look at this.
A spy brought word near Christmas of 1491 that a large Moorish force had attacked another Christian caravan near Bazar, far to the north. Everybody knows what's up. Only our people like to play around. Only our people. Balboa again. Cortez and Pizarro were cousins, but it would have been hard to find two more dissimilar men. Cortez, swordsman and scholar, had attended the University of Salamanca until his quarreling made it wise for him to seek his fortune in New World. He was a smooth-talking, friendly man, then in his 20s and already dreaming of conquest. Pizarro, beetle-browed, dark-skinned, and as big as a Balboa, could neither read nor write. Always something. There's not a time where it wasn't us. Most times it's us. We did some BS. We did some BS just because we could. Order from Allah El. Order from Allah El. Every Moorish American citizen in the United States of America must place in his window the crescent, put the circle around the crescent, and under the crescent, put USA inside of the circle. I want to put in every one of our citizens' ears on the front and the back, large enough to be seen. You can also put both flags, Moorish and American, on the car. The only way to break up all the wars is to nationalize every human being in this Northwest, and every human being here must register in his own nationality to live here, is my honest opinion. This is from the Son of Allah himself. Every Moorish American citizen must carry an identification certificate. Every one of our people in America must carry that at all times and present that at the registration booth as proof of their identity. All of our citizens must wear their fez and turban, or they cannot vote in the general election, because we want everybody to recognize our people by wearing their apparel. We want to make this country a holy and righteous nation by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. We don't want any killing of fowl of any kind. I don't want anyone to take any life that breathes the sweet breath of life as I do. From the Son of the Resurrection of the Dead. Sponsored by Sheikh Norman Bey, 418 South 20th Street, Philadelphia, Penna. So I don't know if this was one of those online social media. Somebody want to post something up or whatever. But Amor sent that to me. Then remember, you know,
Prophet always had it right, man. Always had it right.
Had it right. Oh, brother to live.
And it just every time when you read the prophet's literature, like how we don't, you know, what he's saying, you know, we don't kill anybody. We ain't not here to harm anyone, nothing like that.
Yeah.
But then when you check the news, they make it seem, you know, oh, these people are dangerous. They're anti-government. It's like, yo, that's not even what we're about. How can we do that? We teach the total opposite. You know, we teach. First thing we do is all we know is law. That's all we know.
Yeah.
First thing we do is just we know law. Like law is like we study law so much. Like it's like a treat when we get to go in and read history and stuff like that. We just know law all day. There's no law, and for them to try to make it seem like, oh, these people are just like dangerous, anti-government.
Mm-hmm.
They just degrade the Moors, Spanish Inquisition. Still to this day, it doesn't stop.
Spanish Inquisition against the Moors, always, at all times.
I was telling the Grand Sheik about that article that Aaron Rose wrote for the New York Daily News, something like that. But he wrote the article. He got a picture of the Moroccan flag, right? And underneath it says, "When you see this flag, it means sovereign citizen." There's an article about that. European wrote it. Spanish Inquisition. Still to this day. Doesn't even change. But the thing is that bugs me out is, like, he has the Moroccan flag up there, right? Why isn't the so-called kingdom over there, like, soon as us Moors do something, the Moroccans, the light-skinned, pale Moroccans over there in the kingdom, they be like, oh, these Moors who say these people who say they're Moors, they even start that game.
Yeah.
But now these Europeans take the flag and say, when you see this flag, it means sovereign citizens. Why they not attacking that? Those same Moroccans in the kingdom, this European just wrote this article with your flag. That's supposed to be your flag too. But they're not attacking that. I'm not telling the Grand Sheik that, because they know that flag, who that flag really belongs to. That's why they ain't gonna say nothing. That flag belongs to us here. That flag was being flown over here. The so-called Phoenicians, who they call Phoenicians, like I was reading from the book from Frank Joseph when he said they was following the star over here to the west.
Yeah.
The star, it was called La Amaraca. That's what the Phoenicians called the star that they was following over here.
Shit.
La Amaraca. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. How can you just name your star that when you're on your way over here? And, you know, Prophet says, you know, how old is your flag? You know what I mean? Over 10,000 years. Some say over 50,000 years. Like, come on.
Whichever one it is, that's crazy. It's a long time. A long time.
It bugs me out too, because I remember when Dr. Ivan Sertanima, when he was breaking down, like, before the Olmecs built those sculptures or those heads, you gotta remember, you gotta set up civilization. You just don't come here, oh, we building Olmec heads. Like, that don't happen when you get here that day. Like, you set up civilizations, and over centuries of time, you know, you get to this level of, like, okay, like, that's when you do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, with the flag being 50,000 years old, before that, you know, there has to be time, civilizations to build up. Okay, we're going to get flags.
Yeah.
Like, it got to be
Yeah, flag wasn't the first thing. Yeah.
Right. You just don't. Oh, we're here. We're gonna have flags. Like what? What's a flag? What's that? Like that? No, you got to get to that level. You don't just do that. That don't work like that. So that proves that we've been here since and don't know about it. It just the prophet said there's no time a man was not, and that's when you keep checking, trying to dig and find. We just keep getting older and older. They find all type of stuff, but they tell you when they started. European tell you he not going back no further than 5,000 years. The European tell you that. He's stuck 5,000. He's stuck right there.
Stuck. One of the more sent this reference point. The Essential Mystics by Andrew Harvey. The Essential Mystics. John Smith, man of adventure. There were 3 ships to carry the London Company to the New World. An experienced mariner named Christopher Newport was in charge of all 3 and rowed in the largest, Sarah Constant. There was a middle-sized ship named the Goodspeed and a pinnace called Discovery. King James, who was a vain, bossy man, had made rather silly plans for the governing of the colony, which the London Company would sponsor. The Royal Council here in England will rule the colony, said the pompous king. The Royal Council will choose another council from the members of the company to name the president. Who are the councillors? Wondered the members of the company. That will be a secret until you land in the New World, said the king. It's their king, their king. Well, again, when we go check, we start realizing that these people were on ships and kidnapped by us and all that stuff. How the hell are they? How? How are they ruling something?
Oh, you can, you can Google it right now. Because they were talking about Captain John Smith, right?
Yeah.
If you can Google John Smith being a slave to the Moorish Empire, it popped right up articles. He was a slave to the Moors, and worked his way up in slavery to become a mercenary to the Moorish armies. Like, this is Captain John Smith. And when he is the one, right? John Smith, after you learn this information, he's the one that so-called named that island in Virginia, Tangier. They say that he's the one that named it that. I'm like, okay, this is all crazy. Even if he did name it that, he was a slave he was a mercenary to the Moorish army. So if he named that Tangier, that was under the strength of the Moroccan Empire, because he was a mercenary to the Sultan. Luella J. Hall. Luella J. Hall mentions that in her book, Morocco. You can Google it. John Smith was a slave in the Moorish armies. It popped right up. They don't even hide it. Pop right up. Then we get this whole story with some Pocahontas crack. I'm like, what is that? Have nothing to do with nothing.
Just telling
this
stories.
man was a slave. kidnapped, sold to the I think it was Tangier. Then they tried to make it seem like he killed his master. I'm like, how you kill your master, but still end up being a mercenary in the Moorish army? Like you didn't do anything. You still got to work for the Moors.
You're still under the Moors.
And came over here. And he's the one that named Tangier, Virginia, the island Tangier. I'm like, yo, this is too much. There's no such thing as coincidence.
Tangier.
And you know, like they say, Columbus came over here and he started naming names after Isabella, Ferdinand, and stuff like that because he was under their jurisdiction. Just like John Smith. He was a mercenary under the Moorish army. So if he named Tangier Island, Virginia, under Tangier, that was under the strength of the Moroccan Empire, of the Sultan, because he was a mercenary for the Sultan of Morocco. He worked for us. But then, I know everybody's like, but they sold the story with the Pocahontas thing. Well, remember, we fought each other. We would hire Christians to fight in our wars, to fight against each other.
Yeah.
That racism, French bloc lunaire crap, that came in the 1700s. That's new. We didn't see racism like what we use today. Oh, that's racist. No, we didn't look at that. We didn't look at stuff like that. It was okay. I can get them to work with me. We gonna go over here and take over this.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it was.
True.
Yeah, there's no such thing as racism. Race. We broke that down. That comes from Rasa. You know, it's a Latin word for a balled up piece of cloth. It's not pure. It's not a straight length, like a straight smooth cloth. It's balled up. It's wrinkled. It's not pure. That's where it comes from. It has nothing to do with people. And that's when it first came about. In the mid like from 1000 AD to 1500. That's a whole brand new. That's still French bloc lunaire concept still didn't exist yet. Still didn't have nothing to do with people. They were talking about it for clothes. Raza had nothing to do with people yet. Then they changed it, which for the Spanish Inquisition. It became part of the Spanish Inquisition for the not pure of the blood. You're not pure of the blood, the Christian, but they made blood and religion seem like it was the same.
European psychology.
Right. Yep. And that's what you got your modern Hebrew Israelites doing that today. Making it seem like religion is blood. Or like when I was down south and the mother, she said, and I asked her, well, what's your nationality? Oh no, baby, I'm a Christian. Like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's what we get. Like, they think religion is bloodline.
Yeah.
European psychology. Like Taj teaches us. The European did a good job.
Yeah.
We're into sorcery.
Good job. Very good job.
I think we got the lunch. We got us out to lunch, and that's exactly what it is. Out to lunch.
Super out to lunch. Islam to all Moors worldwide. Don't forget, it's Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. MHHS Eyes Wide Open. 319-527-6751. 319-527-6751. 425-569-5201. 425-569-5201. blogtalkradio.com/MHHS-eyes wide open, 9:30 p.m. And the word Negro is derived from the Latin term Niger, meaning black. Niger, a Latin word, was formerly used by the Moors, the old Romans, to designate any black inferior object, a plant, a marsh, a flat, moist ground, bog, or animal. Micah, the Morasite, Morasthite, a prophet of the Moors, prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, king of Judah, and spake to all the people of Judah, the Moors, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps of forest. So much references. So many. Just so that we can, know the truth. Toward the setting sun, Columbus, Cabot, Vespucci, and the Race for America, David Boyle. A rich Mohammedan bought the red-haired captain as a slave for his young sweetheart, a girl named Sharatza Shagabigazanga. Sharatza Shagabigzanga. John Smith was a slave. Oh, and he's European. Isn't that interesting? He was a slave and he's European. Well, well. Well, well. The Tartars carried John Smith from the battlefield and took care of him until he was well. He will make a good slave and bring a fine price in the slave market, said the Tartars. Yes, he was a slave. Yes, he was. And don't forget, July 27, 2019, for information, yusufel720@gmail.com. YUSUFEL720@gmail.com. 12 noon to 2:30 p.m. July 27, 2019. Ask a Grand Sheik. Got questions? Been to temples and then they kick you out and tell you don't have your face on straight. You can't come in here. Come talk to the Grand Sheik. 16 Acres Branch Library. 1187 Parker Street, Springfield, Mass. So we'll be out there trying to work on some other things. So, there might be some pop-ups if who knows? Might be just Cujo. Maybe it might be some other people pop up. You don't know what's gonna happen. But we'll be there, 12 noon to 2:30 p.m. Islam more. Muted. You give honors. Honors to Allah. Honors to the Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Supreme honors to all. Give thanks to all the Moors worldwide. I think they kicked off Brother Yusuf. Peace and love to all Moors. Don't forget 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Blog Talk Radio. Islam.